Hi everybody, I'm Amy, this is my wife Maggie, and together we are Think a Theme, and today we're looking at Overparked, which is a new polyomino tile laying game. It's been a little while since we got a new one of those, but we picked this up at Tokyo Game Market last May, and now we've had a chance to look at it, so let's get into whether or not this will be staying in our collection.
So in Overparked, we are going to be the manager of the parking lot that happens to be right next to the stadium. And it also just so happens to be the big concert day. So we have to make sure that we arrange the rush hour traffic that's going to be coming through and make the absolute best use of every single little corner of our parking lot. Whoever does this the most efficient way will be the winner.
Now in this game, you're going to be drafting cards that have polyomino style configurations of different vehicles that you're going to collect from the supply to place out onto your car park. The way that you're going to choose that is by turning the little steering wheel, which is in the middle of all players, and turning it to the position that you want it to be in, where your color faces a particular card. Now that not only dictates which card you're going to take into your hand, but also the card that everybody else around the table needs to take as well. You don't have to play that particular card though, because you're always going to have two other cards in hand, and you're simply going to simultaneously choose a card to play down, collect those cards, and then place them out into your car park. If there are cars that don't fit, they're going to go into your no parking zone, and they're going to be worth -2 points at the end of the game, but you are able to also use actions that bring those cars back in and give you another opportunity to place them. Now, along the way, you're also going to be collecting car keys through a number of methods, and these car keys are important because they're going to allow you to offset the negative points at the end of the game, but on your turn, you can also spend them to slide a car around on the map, so forwards or backwards, either off the map and into the no parking zone, or to move it so that maybe you can achieve an objective that you might not otherwise have been able to fulfill, because there are 3 race objectives as well in every game of Overparked. Now, of course, turn by turn, everybody gets an opportunity to be at the steering wheel and deciding which cards everyone's going to collect, and the game will end when someone can no longer fit a 2x1 piece on their puzzle board, at which point you're going to get a lot of points for connecting the same colored vehicles together. You're going to lose points for having cars in your no parking zone, and of course for having any gaps left on your puzzle board. At the end of the game, the person with the most victory points will win.
Now, when the game actually hits the table and you're going through it, it feels like, you know, your classic kind of polyomino puzzle where you're like, okay, how am I gonna optimize this? And this has to go like here and there, which is I find quite engaging for me. It felt like a good pace, and it's that thing of like, you can kind of try and make it as hard or as easy based on how much you're trying to optimize for. You're gonna go for the colors, or you're gonna try and race for one of those objectives, which again, I think it also adds some of that sense of hustle along the way. Not just like, you know, but again, it's like you can just decide to wait and focus on something else. So,
yeah, I love a race objective. So that's one of my favorite elements of this game. But I also liked that when you're turning that steering wheel, I'm not only thinking about what I want to take, but I'm also looking at what is that going to give Maggie, and is that going to help Maggie actually get one of those objectives?
I'm never looking at what
I
you're
know
get.
you
I'm
would
like, what do I need? Like, no idea for giving her the exact combo of cards that you need.
I know that because often you would turn the steering wheel and it would give me the exact, powerful card that I need. And I'm like, thanks, Maggie.
Like, oh.
I think in the first few games, I got a lot of joy out of just the theme of this game, because if you like cars, I do like cars. The little meeples are really cute. The fact that they're all, for each player, they're different cars.
Yep.
And then, of course, that top-down view of all of the cars. I like that the red ones are all slightly different. There's a little bit of nuance in there. I love the little witches' hats.
Yeah, the cones are pretty cute. Yeah.
Do they call them witches' hats anywhere else? Or just in Australia?
I know them by cones. Yeah, I think the first time I heard it as a witch's hat was when I came to Australia.
Anyway. Those on
traffic
the board,
cones, as are known probably in the rest of the world.
They are also interesting because, they're in the way of your puzzle as well. And if you remove them, they go into your no parking zone. So I like that as a little bit of a do I leave that there and work around it? Or do I put that over in the no parking and get negative points?
And that's actually one of the things that I wasn't anticipating about this game, because I'm not really into cars. But as we kind of started playing it, it has great little table presence. Like, even with just the components that they've put in there, you're like, my parking lot is coming to life. And there's also, I was surprised at the little thematic elements, like the keys. It's like, you can use the key to move the car, quite literally go, and then they either move it within the puzzle, so that you're like, now I can actually better fit something else in. So now I'm connecting my colors or meeting an objective, or going, I don't actually need this car here at all. And if it's one of the ends is open, let's just get it completely out.
And I want to talk about that element because in terms of what surprised me, you look at this cover and you hear about the game and you instantly think of that very famous mobile phone app,
yes.
the game which is Traffic Jam or Car Jam or Bus Jam. There's so many different variations of that anymore, where you're actually trying to get cars out of the parking lot. In this one, you're not really trying to do that. You're trying to fit them all in, but it does have that mechanic. However, I would say that you're kind of discouraged to use that because the car keys are what you need to slide a car, but they're also the things that offset any leftover spaces on your puzzle, as well as any negative points coming from your no parking zone. And so I often found it wasn't actually beneficial to spend those moving cars off the map or, so that I could fit something else in very often, unless it was to achieve an objective and would offset kind of those points. So it then had me summing, and most times it wasn't worth it. And so I think that's interesting because most people look at this thinking that that's going to be a key part of the puzzle, but I don't think it is.
Yeah.
Now, for the most part, this game I think just delivers on exactly what it promises. It's a polyomino tile laying game. It's easy to get into. It's fairly cruisy to play. There's all that simultaneous play, which makes it pretty snappy. In terms of what I would change, I would just say that because it's like quite streamlined, it's pretty simple to get into. After the first 5 games, I started to feel like it was getting a bit samey. There's an advanced version in here, but actually what was interesting about that is when I added we added the advanced truck tiles in, at that point it was like, oh, it's kind of taking away from how streamlined the game is. And so I'd prefer to play it without them, but then also the game is starting to feel samey. So I was just trying to think of what are some other ways they could have put mini expansions in here that would have made the puzzle more interesting. I guess the objectives are one way of doing that.
Yeah, there's quite a number of objectives, so you can, obviously every game you're going to have a different combination of those. But again, I feel like probably after 4 games, you've seen them all. So I think the other thing that I was going to say in terms of what I would change, there's a solo mode, which I'm always very happy to see. It's a fairly streamlined solo mode. You're essentially just revealing a card from a deck of bot cards. And it's just telling you how many, when it's the bot's turn, how many turns it's going to do of that wheel, which will determine what card gets removed and also what card you're going to be allocated. And then it also has this other way of kind of piling up different numbers that then removes the first, second place for those race objectives, which that works really well. I did find that it was I actually enjoyed my time more with other players, so playing it multiplayer, even though it provided an opportunity for me to just kind of explore the game, because there wasn't really it's a beat your own score, but there isn't any ranges of these other scores that you want to aim for, or challenges. I think that would make me want to play this more, because it just sort of feels like, I'm just kind of playing the same thing over and over. So having some particular achievements, try and do it with this many of this color or whatever it is. I think that would keep me more engaged.
Okay, so overall this game is a 7.4 for me. It's kind of middle of the range. I really have enjoyed my time with it. I would be happy to play it at any time, but if we're thinking about whether it stays in our collection or not, it is competing with a number of great polyomino tile games in our collection. The first one that comes to mind, of course, is Planet Unknown, because it has that similar draft where it has the Lazy Susan in the center, which it probably does in a more interesting way with that Lazy Susan, but space is a theme that I don't like as much, and so overparts I probably like the theme a little bit more. And then of course Isle of Cats as well is another big polyomino tile laying game that we keep in our collection, which has a great theme that lots of people love.
And definitely that same thing of the families of cats, so it's the same kind of trying to connect the same color, and so it's very kind of reminiscent of that.
Yeah, but if we had less shelf space, and this obviously is from an Asian publisher, and so look at this box, it's quite small, it's easy to fit into your collection. Those other games, they take up so much space, and so if I wasn't willing to keep those in my collection, maybe I'd consider this.
Yeah, this is definitely the one that's the easiest to set up and tear down. And also if you're kind of teaching newbies, and particularly if you got people who would really enjoy the theme, that kind of car sort of theme, this would probably be the pick for that scenario. Now for me, I'm not a car sort of person, and even polyomino tiles, I enjoy the puzzle, but it's not one of my favorite mechanics. So for me, it's similar. It's going to be a 7.4. I enjoyed my time with the game every time that I play it. It feels it's a good level between relaxed, but also engaged as I'm doing it, but it's not necessarily something that I would be reaching for in sort of that I don't feel like I already have in my collection.
Yeah, but anyway, it's a solid game. If you like
Yeah.
polyomino tile laying, it is a very clever puzzle, so check it out. We hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, please hit like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and we'll be back with more board game content soon. But otherwise, bye for now. Bye.